There's another way you can open your file. You can drag the folder and drop it to the VS Code icon. It will open it for you, right? So you just drag and drop, and then it will open. Taking a bit long to load. Okay, before I finish loading, so today we're diving into JavaScript. Not diving into JavaScript, but knowing how JavaScript works and understanding it in a nutshell, just a complete overview, right? So JavaScript is a programming language. Basically, it's used for web development, right? So you write JavaScript on the client side of your application, right? So JavaScript gives functionalities to your applications. These functionalities include like clicking on a button. When you click on a button, what will happen? When you um when you scroll, you normally see animations flying in and out. That is also done by JavaScript, and then it makes your web page to be more attractive and also um more conducive for individuals to use, right? Like the navigation bar we normally have in websites, that it collapses when the screen is a little bit smaller, and then it's normal when the screen is larger, right? Let me give you an example of that navigation bar. So let's go to a website and see. Let's see how those stores works. So as you see, this is streets, but then when you collapse it, when it comes to a particular size, you see the navigation bar becomes something like this, right? So this is done by JavaScript. As you can see, this is done using JavaScript, right? And also you can change your theme to light theme, dark theme, light theme, dark theme. This is done using JavaScript, right? So they give your web page more life, right? They are like the heart in your web page, right? If you are taking the human anatomy, they are the heart. They give functionalities, right? So that's basically what JavaScript is. So before we begin with that, we first of all have to understand some particular, some very critical things in JavaScript. And then this includes the printing of statements, right? Getting user input, and also conditional statements, and then loops, right? So we'll go through all of that, right? Later I will send you a PDF on what those things are, right? So let's begin our class for today. So first of all, let's create our folder, right? So as I said, the JavaScript folder is written in a .js extension, right? Script.js, right? But there are ways you can write your JavaScript code in your HTML, right? So you see, HTML is more of like the .html extension is the wrapper. It can contain both your CSS and then your JavaScript, right? So you can make a complete website with just a single HTML file, right? So that is how powerful HTML is. You can compile both your CSS and your JavaScript in one particular HTML file. So we are going to use HTML for this before I teach you or extend how we can use JavaScript externally. So JavaScript can be used the same way as CSS. You can write JavaScript inline, internal, and also external, right? So inline formats of writing JavaScript is not a very conducive way to write JavaScript, right? But inline here is not conducive, but the internal and external are very acceptable, right? because a line makes your code look a little bit rough, right? It doesn't make your code look that all right, and also your code is not just organized, right? So let's name our file script.html, right? So this is what we'll be using. Let me run my live server. I hope we all have live server installed, so let me run mine. So before I do that, I'll generate my boilerplate code. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I'll generate my boilerplate code. I hope everybody can see the screen. Okay. Generate my boilerplate code.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I generate my boilerplate code. This is my boilerplate code, right? So to test if everything is working, let me just write a simple h1 then JavaScript. Okay, let me refresh and see. Okay, now it's working. So JavaScript is working. So you've heard of Java before, right? So Java and JavaScript are actually two different languages. They are not the same language. They are actually completely different. Java is a compiled language. JavaScript is an interpreted language. Compiled languages are languages that are being executed. The whole code is being executed at once, right? While interpreted languages are languages that are being interpreted or being executed one line at a time, right? So those are the difference between a compiled language and an interpreted language. And mostly interpreted languages are scripting languages, right? This includes JavaScript, PHP, and also you can use Python for scripting and Ruby and all other scripting languages, right? So these are interpreted languages. Basically, scripting languages are basically just interpreted languages. They are very easy to understand and they are not as hard as Java, C, C++. Those are compiled languages. They are very hard to learn, right? They use a lot of system memory. They don't use a lot of system memory, sorry. So they actually utilize system memory, while interpreted languages use a lot of system memory, and that's what makes them easy, right? So to first of all write your JavaScript code, you come underneath your body and create a tab called script, a script tab. So you open it and then you close it. You open your script tag and then you close it. You save. So this is your script tag. So it's in this script tag that we're going to write all our JavaScript code, right? So before we begin that, I want us to be able to see what code we are writing. So first of all, what you do is you come over to your browser, you left click, right? If you are using Chrome, Edge, or Mozilla Firefox, you left click. It's the same process. You left click, then you see this inspect here, right? So you click on inspect, right? So when you click on inspect, you come to your console here, right? So console is actually used to execute JavaScript code, right? So we want to execute our code and then be able to view it on our console, right? Console is basically used for debugging, right? When you're working on a project and you want to see what that particular project or what that particular code you are doing is saying, you can print it out in your console without actually printing it in your document here. So the first thing we are going to learn in our JavaScript is how to display text, right? In JavaScript, how to display a text. So to display text in JavaScript is console. This is the keyword, console dot log, open brackets, quotes, and then you see let's just welcome. You see, welcome is being displayed. I hope we're all on the same page. Are we all on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So question is, why do we have to put quotes here? Right? So the reason we put quotes is because we have different data types. So, and also to comment in JavaScript, you just use 2 slashes. See, 2 slashes, it will turn green. So data types. Right. So what are data types? Data types are ways you represent certain amount of information in a particular programming language. So examples of data types that we have integer. So integers are just numbers, right? Then we have strings. Strings are basically words, right? We have boolean. Boolean are just true and false, or 1 and 0, right? So there are a lot of so under integers we have big int, we have floats, right? So floats are just numbers but with decimals, right? So float, example of a float is 0.999. Example of an integer is a whole number, 3, 4, 10, right? So these are the data types we have, right? There are a lot more data types, right? We have arrays, we have we have arrays, we have linked lists, we have stacks, we have queues, we have different types of data types, but these are the data types that we will be basing on for this tutorial, right? So we have the int, float, string, boolean, right? So as you can see, this here is a string, right? Strings always contain quotes, then the name of, then the word you want to write, right? You must put this in quotes before you do that, right? So that is strings. Booleans are just true, false. So let's console.log each one of these data types. Console.log 20. So you see the 20, I did not put it in quotes because it's an integer, right? Immediately I put it in quotes, it becomes a string, right? So that is it. So this is it. This is the integer. Then let's go with a float, 20.6. You see 20.6, a float. Then we have a boolean true. You see it console.log true, right? So all these are the data types here, right? So after we're done with data types, then we move on to something we call variables, right? Variables are just containers where you use to store values, right? So that is variable. So we have 3 keywords used in order to create variables. We have the var, we have let, and then we have const, right? These are all different, and I'll explain the differences between them. So variable is an old way of declaring variables using var. Is an old way, right? The reason people don't use var is because variables are globally scoped, right? So what we mean by globally scoped is that whenever you define a variable, when as I said, interpreted languages are being executed line after line, right? So let's take for instance now we create a variable. This is how to create a variable. You say var variable var, then the name of the variable. Let's say we are saving age equals to the value, right? So the var keyword, the name of the variable, then what is that variable equal to? Let's say age is equals to 10. Let's save, right? So then we console dot log age, right? So I hope you understand. We console dot log age, because this age is holding a particular number called 10, right? So when you ask the console to give you the age, it gives you 10, right? So you see 10 is being outputted, right? So since this is an interpreted language, all codes are being executed line by line by line, right? So this has to be executed before this, right? So let's put the console above. You see it's showing undefined, right? It's supposed to show an error. Is somebody having issue with the network?
Yeah, me.
Okay, really sorry about that, but just hold on with the class. And also it's being recorded, so you can actually just check up on the video. So I hope your network will be all right. All right, Casey, are we on the same page?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm explaining what we mean by global scoping. Why you don't use variables again, why you don't use the var keyword. I'm explaining global scoping. So as you see now, our age is showing undefined. Why? Because this var, it will already declare variable here, var age. That is how variable works. It already declare variable here, right? We will not be able to see it. It will happen here. It will already declare var at the top. It's globally scoped, so it will declare all variables that you have created at the top, and that can be really messy. Let's say for instance you are working on a code base, you are working in your code base, and then you have this error, this particular error. You see, you have defined age as 10, but when you console.log age, it's showing you undefined, right? So that means your age has been defined, but you don't know where the value, you are seeing that it's defined here, but you don't know that you have an error with variable, because variables are globally scoped, right? So they are placed above this. Immediately you do this and execute your code, this particular code here will be copied and pasted here at the top of your code. That is what global scoping is. So now instead of using var, let's go with let, and then let's see. You see, when you use let, you get an error, right? You see the difference now. Variables are globally scoped. The var keyword is globally scoped. Let keyword are not globally scoped, right? This particular variable does not get created at the top of your code. But when you use var, the variable age gets created at the top of your code, right? So you will not get an error when you run this particular code. So the first thing you do is to console.log welcome, then we console.log true, which displayed, then we console.log age, right? So if you look, before we console.log age, we did not declare the value age. We did not declare it, right? We declared it after, right? So that is why we are getting an error here. Cannot access age before initialization, right? So you can't access this age before initialization. This is before it, right? Not after. So when we take this above where we console.log it, you see we don't have an error. So I hope you understand why we cannot use variables. Variables are globally scoped and they will cause a lot of error in your code, right? Let is not globally scoped, it's locally scoped, right? And then it actually follows the rules of interpreted languages, right? So that is the difference between var and const, right? So we have variables and var and let, var and let. So const is when you're having a constant value, like the value of pi. Const pi is equals to 3.141218, right? So I think this is the value of pi. So you know the value of pi does not change, right? It's constant, it does not change. Sorry, let me get my charger. I'm coming back. Okay, can you all hear me now? I hope there's no network here.
Yeah.
Okay. So the value of pi is
That's
actually okay, all right. The value of pi is constant, so that is why we have it in const, right? So pi does not change, right? That is, so here is the variables, how you can declare variables. This is how you can console.log a particular information, right? And then these are the data types you have, right? You console.log maybe different data types. You see pi here is a float because it has decimal. Age is an integer, int, and then this is float, right? I hope we are following together, right? So after we talk about variables, let's move on to something a little bit more complex. It's called conditional statements, right? They are not that complex, but if you just understand how they work, right, they are called conditional statements, right? From the word condition, a particular conditional statement happen when a particular condition is met, right? They do not just happen. They are lines of code that happen only when a particular condition is met or when a particular condition evaluates to true. And then you can give you can have a situation where that particular condition evaluates to false, so you know what to do when that particular condition evaluates to false, right? Let's take for instance, now we know that if a person's age is less than 18, then he's a child. Then if he's greater than, he's an adult, right? So you see there's a condition there. So if he is less than 18, we want to print out you are a child. If he is greater than 18, we want to print out you are an adult, right? So how do we do that with JavaScript? We use the if statement, if else statement, right? So if else statement is a conditional statement. If statement, else statement, these are conditional statements, right? So let's get the age. We have the age here. We have the age here. Really sorry about your network pressures. Yeah. So we have the age here. This is the age we are using now to verify if that user is a child or an adult. But we can clearly see that this is a child, right? But the computer doesn't know, right? So how do we do that? We use the if statement. If the whatever condition we put, so the if statement, you use the if keyword, if, right? Just come if, open your bracket, open and close your bracket. So within this bracket is where you are going to put your condition. And when this condition evaluates to true, right? When this condition evaluates to true, you will do a certain action. If it evaluates to false, you will also perform a certain action. So now what are we doing? If age, right, is less than 18, right? If age is less than 18, then we put our curly braces. The reason for these curly braces is because JavaScript is like a block programming language. It's a block programming language. Each and everything should be in a block like this, right? So something like this, you see, it's block here. So whatever you define here cannot be accessed by another block of code. We'll get into that and you understand how it works, right? So if then this block here, if the age is less than 18, we want to console.log, let's use big and small, right? So as you can see in our console, it's consoling small. Why? Because the age here is less than 18. It's giving out that value that was consoled small. So if this particular statement here is true, if this particular statement here is true, it will console this, right? So let me give you the syntax of how an if statement is. So if true, console.log true. This is it. If this is true, it will console true. So your question may be, what will happen if this is false? If this is false, you see our true here is being displayed. So let's save it as false. If this is false, nothing will be displayed, because this line of code will only be displayed when this particular statement is true, right? So this is an if statement, right? So you see this whole console is being skipped. So let's make the user's age to be 30, right? So you don't see anything being consoled. You don't see small being consoled. Why? Because this particular if statement evaluates to false. So now, how do you handle that particular process when your if statement evaluates to false, right? So you use something we call the else statement. If this is true, then this will print. If this is false, else this will be printed. I hope you understand, right? I hope we're on the same page. Guys, I hope we're on the same page.
We are.
Okay, you understand how if statements work, right? Okay, Kezia, you have done Python, you said before. So you're actually seeing how if statements are the same with Python. But the difference is that in Python, we use indentations, while here we use curly braces. So you see that's the difference. But they all follow the same logic and the same pattern, right? So we have if the age is less than 18, it will print small. So now what happens when the age is greater than 18? That is what we are going to explain in the else statement. If this, then you come right after your closing curly braces. You see this is the open curly, then this is the closing. So else, another curly braces, curly braces, console.log big, right? So you see big is being consoled here, right? Why? Because this if statement is evaluates to false. So when it evaluates to false, whatever is in the if statement will not be executed. Then whatever is in the else statement will be executed. So if false console.log true. So this particular line will be skipped. So you say you use an else here, else console.log false, right? So you actually see how it is. So if this is false, it will console.log whatever is in your else statement. If your condition is true, it will console.log whatever is in your if statement at the beginning, right? I hope we understand this simple logic, right? Because we are going to do something with it. So how do you accept user input, right? So we talked about how you use the input, you create your input tag, right? So before we get to that part, that you'll be able to put in a particular value on your input and then do some calculations. We'll get to that when we get to the calculator. But before we get to that, we have to understand what DOM is, document object model. done manipulation, how you can use JavaScript in order to manipulate your HTML document, right? So to create to do that, let's first of all let's close this, so that I'll show you a simple trick in JavaScript. It's called the alert function, right? It's a function. Alert, let's say, well, good day, save. So you see, this is what the alert does, right? And also I said alert is a function, right? So what is a function? That is what we are going to do now. So what is a function? How do you define a function? Why is it that this function is already in JavaScript? Why is it already defined, right? So in JavaScript, you have something we call the built-in functions, and then the user-defined functions, right? The built-in functions. So these built-in functions are, example is, we have this console.log. It's a built-in function, right? If2 is a built-in function, right? So you see, all these are built into JavaScript. You do not define them. They come with JavaScript, right? And don't forget that your web browser has a JavaScript engine, right? It has a Java. Daddy.
Like,
Really sorry about that. My network was off.
like,
Okay, okay. All right, all right. So do you guys understand this particular if statement and else statements, right?
yeah.
Okay, I can. Okay, before our class ends, we'll do. I hope you can see the screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, if the call ends, I'll before it gives us a limit of an hour. If it ends, I'll send you a link again so that we can continue with the class. If you guys are not tired,
Oh,
okay. I hope the class is going okay, and I hope you guys are really understanding.
it's going to.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay. I hope it's not hard too, because these are like the basics of JavaScript. Yeah. All right. So this is the if statement, this is the else statement. Then this is the alert, right? So as you can see, whenever you write this alert function, it just prompts this, right? It just prompts this particular text here, right? So now what I want us to do is, how are we able to get a user's input from this particular prompt? How do we prompt something and be like, what is your name? Then we get a particular input field where we put the user's name, right? So you do that with the prompt keyword. Prompt, what is your name? Say we have this alert and then this prompt, what is your name? We have an input field here, right? So as you can see, you can type in your name, right, and click on OK, but then nothing happens, right? The reason is because you need to store the name you typed in a particular variable, right? You need to store this name you got from this prompt in a particular variable, right? So how do you store that name? So to store the name is very simple. You first of all define the type of variable you want to use. We are using the let keyword. We are using let name equal to prompt open bracket what is your name, right? So this is how you do. So whatever the user types in here will be saved in this particular variable so that we can be able to use it later. Okay, what is your name? Nothing happens, right? So who can explain how we can display the user's name here with what we have done previously? Anybody willing to explain? How can we display the name that we typed in on our console? Like you type in somebody's name here. How do you display that name on your console? It's just the three of us here. Anybody?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, so we use the prompt, right? So what this prompt does is it gives us an input field where we can type in particular values, right? We can type in particular values. Like you can ask for somebody's name, and also you can ask for somebody's age and stuff like this, right? So what we are doing here is we're asking for the user's name. When we ask for the user's name, we save it in this variable, right? So how are we able to print that user's name? What keyword do we use for displaying text? And then what are we actually going to put in that particular function that is used for displaying text? I hope you understand the question. How can we display this user's name on the console? Nobody. All right, Kezia, can you tell us how can we display the name? But you said you understood what was going on. So the question is very simple. It's a very simple question. How can we display this user's name? Let me clean this so that we won't have any obstruction. So when the user typed in his name, James, how can we display James on the console? That was the question, right? So how to do that is very simple. Let me answer the question for you guys, since none of you is willing to answer. So to do that, you just console.log name. Why are we doing console.log name? Because whatever name we type here is being saved in this particular variable, right? So when we run this console.log name, it will print out the value that we typed in our prompts. I hope you understand. So let me run it. James. You see James is being printed out, right? So that is how it works. You use this particular value, this particular variable, right? Since it stores this value that we typed in, James, it stored James inside this particular variable here, name. The name variable stores in James, right? And as I said, variables are containers. They are used to hold values. Variables are used to hold values. I hope you understand. I hope we understand. If you guys don't understand, just speak out so that we can go back and then do this again. No,
Sorry, but I didn't hear the question clearly, and then I also didn't hear the explanation.
okay.
Cracking.
It's cracking. Kezia, is your own cracking?
Yeah.
Your own is cracking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. So the question was very simple. So like when we have that input field we created in our HTML, right? That input field, right? So we want to replicate that particular input field in JavaScript. So how you do that replication is using this function called the prompt, right? So what this prompt does is it prompts this particular input field. You see, this is an input field. I can type in numbers, I can type in letters, right? So on and so forth, right? So how will I be able to save this particular value that I typed in here, right? You know, I'm typing in a value, right? When they ask you what is your name, you respond with your name. Your name is the value, right, to that particular question, right? So the question here is what is your name, right? So after you're being prompted with that question, so you type in your name, James, right? So this James here, we are saving it in this variable let. I hope you understand. James is being saved in this variable called name, right? Using the let keyword. Let name equals this, right? This will return this value, right? Then you save it in this variable name, right? So when it's saved in this variable, when it's saved in this container, we want to peel out the container and see what is inside. So we use the console.log, right? It now shows us what is inside this container. I hope you understand. Let's say the name is Kano. You see, Kano is being consoled here. It's being displayed, right? I hope you understand. I hope we are all getting this. Precious and easier.
Yeah.
I hope you are getting this because you guys have been quiet. And when we reach this part of console.log, and also I hope you guys understand this if statement and this else statement. This if and else statement. I hope you guys understood if statement and else statement, right? So we'll go back again in JavaScript. We go back. So console.log, right? What is it used for? Console.log is used to display particular text or display values, right? They are used for display, right? I want to show you something or I want to talk, you use console.log. We use our mouth to talk. JavaScript uses console.log to talk, right? We use our cups to hold in particular liquids, right? We have containers, like we have cups, we have basins where they are used to hold things inside. right? So in JavaScript, we use variables to hold things. In all programming language, we use variables to hold things, right? And in JavaScript, you define the let keyword, define what type of variable this is. So this type of variable is a let, is using the let keyword. And then also this let keyword allows you to be able, it allows you to change that particular value. That value can be changed in the let keyword. So you can change age. You can say let age be 30, and then underneath here you can change the value of age. You can say age to be equals to 10, right? So age can be changed because we are using this let keyword, right? Console.log is used to speak, so it's like the mouth of JavaScript, right? Then we have const. Const is used to define constant values. These are values that cannot be changed throughout the code, right? So if I come here and change the value of pi and say, let's say pi is equals to 999, right? An error will be prompted because pi is a constant. It cannot be changed, but I can change the value age. Age is equals to 10. I can change age, right? So right here, I've defined my variable. This is used to define a variable, and then this is used to assign a value to the variable. I hope we understand. I hope we understand, right? You guys should speak up so that I will know that you guys are understanding. Okay, we'll go back. You guys will understand. You guys must understand this actually. All right, so let's take this back to baby steps. Take this back to baby steps. All right, so are you guys able to see your console tab? Let's close this. We're starting from beginning. Have you guys opened your console tab? This tab here. If you haven't, this is how to open it. So you just go to your you have opened your console tab. Okay, what about you, Kezia? Kezia, not yet. Open it so that we can go with you step by step on this. If it's open, just inform me so that we can proceed. Okay, have you guys created your script tag? This tag here, which is underneath your body tag. Is underneath your body tag. So just create the script tag. Have you, Precious?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you've opened it and you closed it, right? Yeah. So as I was saying, all our JavaScript code will be in between this open and closing tag. That is where all our JavaScript code will be. It will be in between open and closing tag. So we know that in HTML, right, we display text using tags, right? That's what we use to display text, right? You can display you can use a paragraph tag and then display an animal. Let's say we display the name dog, right? So what I was trying to say is, how do we display these names in JavaScript? How do we display these names in JavaScript, right? That is what we are going to do now. How to display those names, right? So you see here, you open your p tag, then you write what you want to be displayed, and then you close your p tag, right? So you can display things in JavaScript, but in a different way. All programming languages have different ways that you can use to express them, or they are written in different ways, right? So you will write them in different ways. That's how all programming languages are. I hope you understand. What we are going to do now is we are going to learn how to display a text in JavaScript, right? So to do that, there's a built-in function. What is a built-in function? A built-in function is a function that comes with JavaScript, right? This is a function that JavaScript, the guys that created JavaScript already defined it for you so that you don't have to create a function that does that always when you want to code, right? It's already built into JavaScript, right? And all your browsers have JavaScript engines. Your Chrome, your Mozilla, your Edge, they all have JavaScript engine inside of them, right? KZ, I hope we're together.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope we're together. I hope you've opened your console tab.
Yes, yeah.
Have you opened your console tab?
Yes.
Okay, have you opened the script tag? This one here.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I was saying, what we want to do now is we want to be able to print out a text in JavaScript. You have done Python before, right? So you know to print a text in Python is just print hello world, right? Or print your name, right? So you can be able to do that in JavaScript. So to do that in JavaScript is console.log, all small letter, console.log. Then you open your brackets, right? So when you open your brackets, you first of all say what type of value do you want to display? What type of data are you displaying? Are you displaying a boolean? Are you displaying a string? Are you displaying an integer? Right? You first of all need to know this, right? If you want to display somebody's name, it's a string. If you want to display somebody's age, it's a number, an integer, that is, right? If you want to display a fraction, is a float. If you want to display true or false, is a boolean. So first of all, you have to understand what am I going to display, right? Console.log, console.log. Then you open your brackets, right? So when you open your brackets, whatever you want to be displayed. Let's take for instance, this is this open bracket and closing bracket is our open and closing tag. That is what we're taking it as, right? So whatever we want to be displayed should be in between our open tag and our closing tag, right? So that is it, right? So first of all, understand what am I displaying? I want to display name. Let's say cat, right? So name is what? A string, right? And one thing with strings is that they are always in quotes, double quote or single quote. That is how strings are. Strings are always in quotes. Integers are always written whole without quotes. Floats are written without quotes. Booleans are written without quotes. Only strings have quotes, right? Because they are letters, they are words. Only strings have quotes. So we are displaying cat, and cat is a word, is like it's a name, right? So and it should be in quotes. CAT, right? Save. So we can see cats being displayed here, right? I hope all of you, I hope your cat is displaying.
Yes, it is.
Do you understand how to display a text now in JavaScript?
Yes, I do.
You understand? So if I'm displaying like an age, right? Do I have to put these quotes?
No, you don't.
Why? Because age is a number.
Yes, and strings
Yeah, they are
are words
integers.
that
Yeah. Strings are words that you put in quotes. Casey, I hope we are following.
I didn't get you. My network was bad.
Okay, sorry about that. So I was saying we have strings, we have integers. Strings are always in quotes, right? They're always in quotes, either single quotes or double quotes. What I mean by quotes is just this. These are quotes. This is double quote. This is a single quote, right? So they're actually on the same key on your keyboard. So to get the double, you just shift double quote. To get the single, you don't click on the shift, you just click that particular key, right? So whatever you see is in a quote is called a string, because strings are numbers. Sorry, strings are words, right? Strings are words, like a name, like my name is a string, right? So they are in quotes, right? And then let's talk about ages. Like somebody's age 30 is a number. So numbers cannot be in quotes, right? Numbers can't be in quotes. Floats can't be in quotes. Numbers are also known as integers. They are known as integers. Floats cannot be in quotes, right? Booleans cannot be in quotes. Anything that is in quotes is a string, right? So like 30, this is a string. Why? Because it has quotes, right? I hope you understand this. This 30 is a string. This 30 is an integer. Do we understand?
Yes.
Kezia, do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. I want all of us to understand this. I want you guys to really understand how JavaScript works, because it's really fun when you understand how it works, and it's easy actually. Yeah. So we have console.log cat, right? So we know how to like talk in JavaScript. I hope you understand. We know how to do our tags in JavaScript. We're taking this as our opening tag and taking this as our closing tag. So whatever we display in between our opening and our closing will be displayed on our console, right? That will be displayed on our